Hey there. I offer this podcast freely. Your support really makes a difference. To make a donation, visit reneemckenna.com. Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name is Renee LaVallee McKenna, and I bring my 30-plus years as a recovering addict and ex-crazy person turned therapist and shamanic healer to bring you snackable teachings on spirituality, psychology, and all things personal growth. And today I want to talk about going with the flow of life. I was first introduced to the idea of going with the flow in my early days in 12-step recovery with the slogan, let go and let God. And I have to say, although many people might find that a comforting, hopeful, or even relaxing thing to do, my first approaches to the idea of letting go and letting God actually brought up incredible fear and pointed to the deep distrust that I had for the life force, for the universe, for the God of my own misunderstanding. So although I was introduced to this concept over 35 years ago, it remains a spiritual principle that continues to challenge me on almost every level. Now I have a lot of really positive experience behind me of the great benefits of letting go and letting God, or goddess, or whatever you call source. And the irony is the places that I most need to let go are the places that I'm most afraid to do so. In fact, it's very instructive to look at the areas of our life where we're most controlling, most afraid, most stuck, hopeless, shameful, victimized, all those terrible, painful states of mind, emotion, and behavior that keep us small and suffering and powerless. And it doesn't seem to make sense that we would be attached so tightly to these lower resonances in difficult circumstances and emotions, but we are. They're what I've come to call lower power, and they deplete us and they drain us, but they also keep us safe. If we do what we always did, we're going to get what we always got. And for many of us, the fear of the unknown is unfortunately greater than our fear of perpetual suffering. And the good news is we don't even need to have faith. I have never been a faith-filled person. I'm still not, actually, because of my own neglect, abandonment, addiction, my own trauma, and the trauma I have caused others. I have a pretty good idea of what's possible here in the middle world. And although I literally have decades of positive experience, not all of it positive for sure, there's a little part of me that's always waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's my own perpetual personal growth work. I think I got another good 30 years. We'll see if I can transform or resolve that deep underlying distrust before I leave this planet, but we'll see. If I don't do it now, I get infinite lifetimes to dissolve my own fearful attachments. And they are attachments. Attachments to the stories of the past that have created this narrative and ego structure of the way that I see myself. And we all have a victim. We all have a wounded inner child. We all have a divergent lower self that wants to sabotage us. And we all have an inner thief who's trying to get something for nothing. And the pain of those lower resonances and dysfunction can depress us, drain us, make us sick. But the suffering of those dysfunctional ways of being actually can become the motivator that'll open our mind to the possibility that maybe something could happen that we couldn't imagine, that might even be beneficial, creative, or positive. I know that pain, desperation, and suffering have served me well, as they do all of us if we pay attention. Pain and suffering is always information that something needs attention and that we're being called to grow and evolve and heal. Unfortunately, lower resonances tend to feed on each other and on themselves and can actually devolve us into even greater suffering. But I've come to believe that's all part of the learning curve. It's like falling off a bike. Even if this lifetime kills you, and ultimately life is fatal for all of us, if you've learned to ride a bike yourself or had the amazing opportunity to teach a child to ride a bike, you got to keep falling off a bunch of times until you find that body, mind, spirit balance that magically keeps you up on two wheels. And I do believe we are here to learn and evolve and grow. Because of the way the earth plane is set up, it seems like we're all here kind of to learn similar things. So we're all here to learn how to ride some kind of a psycho-spiritual, relational, physical bike. And many of the great and most ancient spiritual traditions point to the idea that we get to keep trying over and over again in different lifetimes until we learn how to ride. Now, certainly, I don't know if that's true, but I have come to have immense respect for both Buddhism and Hinduism and the thousands of years of incredible study, devotion, and wisdom development that those traditions point to. And their much larger and more complex or in-depth cosmological approach to creation spirituality. Christianity is kind of limited in that. Although I love Genesis and believe that the Christ consciousness is one of the highest resonances available to us as humans, the Bible has a pretty myopic view of the larger cosmology. So the idea of letting go and letting God, letting go and letting goddess, or being willing to go with the flow of life, really only requires one thing from my perspective, and that is open-mindedness. And open-mindedness is just the idea that there might be the possibility of outcomes that I can't imagine. In my meditation this morning, the term creation spirituality came to me. It's a term coined by a former Dominican priest named Matthew Fox. And Matthew Fox has written many books, including one called Creation Spirituality, Liberating Gifts for the Peoples of the Earth. And creation spirituality could be seen as a way of living within the community of the earth that deepens our reverence for life and helps us participate in the infinite creativity of the cosmos. And it often really includes a passion for helping our brothers and sisters with social justice and the transformation of humanity as a whole. And when I'm in my fear-based, limiting ways of seeing the world, which is always based on my past experience, I'm closed to the possibilities that any new opportunities are possible or could be created. And so when I'm afraid to let go and let God, I usually need to get a bigger God. And if I look deeply, I usually see I got some mean-ass, crappy little judgmental or half-asleep God who doesn't even care about me. And when I can open my mind to the potential of hope, universal love, the life force, which is perpetually evolving, expanding the universe, creating new species all the time, and that I'm not separate from that. I'm eligible too, that we are worthy of God's love. Now, the masculine God thing, this is where it caused a problem for me. And what was super helpful, actually, was to open to the divine feminine, to pray, Our Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy names. Or, Goddess, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That sky daddy God whipped lightning bolts at chicks like me. I wasn't raised in a religion, but I just culturally absorbed it through the ether. The Old Testament judgmental God. And although I didn't have a great experience with a very strong or loving human mother, opening to the love of the goddess or the great mother completely transformed my life, actually, before I even had children of my own. I heard someone say recently, we learn to give what we didn't get, and that opens us to possibilities for ourselves to receive as well. And although I haven't always been successful, I have tried to be a good friend, a loving partner, and once I had children, the best mother that I could be. And so can I be open to even the possibility that there might be options, opportunities, or outcomes that I can't imagine that might be helpful, positive, and good? Or even more than that, that this indescribably complex, universal life flow that flows through all things loves to create. And some of that creation is opportunities, possibilities, solutions that have not been created before. That's what true creativity is, making something that didn't exist before. And that God is the great artist. Goddess is the infinite creative one. And where do I limit? The possibilities of the limitless. And so I've been reading the book Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. Every once in a while, I find an author or a teacher that I really love, and I become obsessed with them. I read everything they wrote. I'm actually going to go see him at the end of May in Florida, because I'm a kinesthetic person. I actually want to be in the room and feel them. So I'll let you know what Dodson feels like. I like to do one in-person, in-depth experience every year. Sometimes I can do 2, but usually 1 is good. If I find something that's really meaty and juicy, 1 deep dive will give me enough snacks to chew on for the next year to really be able to integrate the information in my life. So I'm working with Dodson's Levels of Energy and Reality Creation. And I'm excited because he's giving me a lot of language for the spiritual psychology work that I do with clients and teach in my mentorship program, and is so helpful right now in my own passion and mission to bring this incredible spiritual psychology work to the widest audience possible, to all who need it. And he's giving me language and rational concepts to be able to speak and conceptualize this incredibly intuitive, spiritual, non-physical work. And that's one of the things we get to do here as humans, is bring the metaphysical into the physical. So Dodson offers this extended metaphor of how we interact with the stream of life. And his perspective is, as in many traditions, that on some soul level, we make some kind of agreement about the work that we're going to do in this lifetime, in this incarnation, and that if we can really let go, then the stream of life will carry us along to the fulfillment of our own soul's evolution. And it is our resistance, our struggles, often the effort that we believe that we need to make things happen, that can get us caught in the rocks, stuck in the weeds, or out of the boat completely on the shore. Might even have us drown. But we get another try next time. That there's so much happening in life without our permission, without our effort, even our own breath. We don't make ourselves breathe, don't make our heart beat, don't make the sun come up and go down. Most of the big life-changing events or directions that have happened to me came completely unexpectedly without my planning or permission. And he points to the idea that most spiritual traditions, spiritual practices, are about relaxing, letting go, meditating, doing nothing. Whoa, that was kind of a revelation, actually. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't show up. We have to man the boat. We do have to navigate the rocks. Boats will tend to go off to the side and bump into the shore or get stuck in the weeds, so we have to keep the thing moving. But there's a current, and can we just relax and enjoy the ride? If things are really difficult, are we trying to swim or row upstream? And so I've been practicing that, actually imagining myself floating in a boat as my daily life moves along. And can I enjoy the scenery? Can I relax? That doesn't mean I don't need to speed up if a taxi cab's going to run me over. We got to pay attention. But it's been kind of fun and a really visceral visual for me to work with in this idea of let go and let goddess. Oh, but I want to know where that river's going. I want to know what's around the next corner. I want to use all my manifestation thing and try to create my destination. And a lot of time that just ends me in the weeds. Can I grow in trust that the river knows where we're going out into the wide ocean, and that the ultimate destination in this incarnation is death? And I don't actually want to be in a rush to get there, but there's many stops and sights along the way. And so I encourage you to be open-minded. Notice where you're stuck, attached, suffering. Where are you being called to let go and go with the flow? Thank you so much for listening. And if you need help with that process of going with the flow and want to see if a block of spiritual psychology work might be helpful for you, or learn more about that year-long mentorship program that I mentioned, shoot me an email, info@reneemckenna.com. If you like this podcast, I'd appreciate 5 stars or a good review. Deep gratitude to my supporters on Patreon and through this podcast. Blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaVallee McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.